The Diablo 4 Season 9 Campfire Chat happened earlier today, and it was massive. 2 full hours of content, and let me tell you, that wasn't even it. There were nerfs, there were changes to the meta shakeup, there was also a lot of brand new, really great quality of life changes that have been added in. We're going to go over all of that. I'm going to have this document here listed in the description of the video, so if you guys want to hop in and check it out, it will be there for you. Starting with just the Season 8 thoughts from the developers. They were actually very happy with the level pacing. This season actually felt really great, going from level 1 to level 60 and then progressing through the Torment tiers. So they're happy with that. A very key note about this, during the leveling process, they did let us know that there was not enough variety, at least from what they saw. The incursions were kind of an afterthought. You didn't really want to go all the way out of your way to go there. They're going to be making some changes in Season 9. We're going to get to see exactly what those are when we hit the PTR. But whatever the seasonal mechanic is, hopefully is going to feel a lot more punchy. It's going to be a lot better to just go and do. That's also going to be what they're going to be doing for all of the activities in the game. They really want it to feel like you're going to get a ton of rewards for going and doing all of the different content. It's going to reward people like me that like to just run around, try all of the different stuff, bounce from one activity to the next. This is going to be a really great change that we're going to see coming up on the PTR. They went over some class balancing content. Now, they wanted to shake up the meta. That means that everything that we're going to be seeing in Season 8 is going to change. All of the builds should be able to get into Torment 4. Now, what that means, before anybody jumps on board with this, that means that if you put together a cohesive build, you pick a core skill, you build around that core skill, you build around a basic skill, something like that, you should be able to get into Torment 4 with the right masterworking, with the right gear. It doesn't mean that you can just throw any aspect on that you want, any core skill on, 3 different core skills, and you can get into Torment 4. Any of the cohesive builds, they're going to try and make sure that you can get into Torment 4. And we see a lot of that in the Season 8 right now. There are a lot of the off-meta builds that people are playing that they're actually making into Torment 4, which is really, really cool. As I got started talking, someone in chat mentioned that all of the top builds have been the exact same thing for the last 2 seasons, and they immediately addressed that. They do know that. They're going to shake that up, so we're going to see some different meta builds that are going to be coming in Season 9. Dungeons are being reworked, but we're going to get to that in a second. First, we're going to start with Sins of the Horadric. This is going to be the new seasonal theme. It's going to be seasonal powers, and it was pretty comprehensive. I'm pretty excited to get my hands on this and start testing. We're going to be getting Horadric spells, and then we're also going to be getting in this season more Nightmare Dungeon affixes that are going to be updated and a lot more valuable. Horadric strongholds, which are going to be new dungeons inside of a dungeon, where you're going to build up rewards based on how you run through and gain attunement. Escalating nightmare dungeons are going to be added in. They seem pretty cool, and we'll get to talk about that in just a little bit. And then they're adding in a new boss. Now, this boss is not going to be part of the boss ladder. They're going to be adding in bosses into the end of some of the dungeons so that the bosses are more spread out throughout the game, so you have more content to do. Nightmare Dungeon affixes. How this is going to be working now. We're going to have new rewards. These are going to be permanent throughout the game. This is not going to be something that is just going to be for the season. This is a permanent change. We're going to be getting things that will now give us more equipment at the end, or will now give us more gems at the end, more gem fragments. It's going to be a much better and much more comprehensive way to use Nightmare Dungeons, make them more viable to actually run. The Horadric strongholds are going to be rooms hidden inside the dungeons. This is going to be also permanent. Each of them will give you attunement by killing monsters. This is going to maximize your rewards. If anybody was around when the gauntlet was out, it's going to be the same kind of system. You're going to get more points, and you're going to try and beat your records in order to get the maximum amount of points and the maximum amount of rewards out of these dungeons. Escalating Nightmare Dungeons. This is actually going to be pretty cool. Again, this is permanent. We're going to fight your way through 3 different dungeons. New affixes are going to be given for each one of the dungeons. If you can see here, you get additional affixes added on every single time that you go. It's going to get harder as you go, but it's also going to give you more rewards. You're going to start finding these sigils, because you have to have a sigil in order to run an Escalating Nightmare Dungeon. They're going to start in Torment 1. They did hint that maybe they're going to bring them in earlier. I would love to see them in earlier, so this way, during the leveling process, you have some sort of exciting stuff that you get to go do as you're leveling, instead of just going to Hell Tides, going to do a Whisper, and then going to do maybe a Legion event. Hopefully, this will make its way into the early game as well. You do not need to go back to town in between the dungeons, which is amazing. You can just go right to this little pillar here, you click on the pillar, and it takes you into the next dungeon. They did say, and this is a huge quality of life, You do not need to leave the Nightmare Dungeon in order to start a brand new Nightmare Dungeon. You pop the next one open, you teleport right to the Nightmare Dungeon. It's an awesome change. I'm very excited for this. It's going to cut down on the amount of time teleporting out of the Nightmare Dungeon, popping a new sigil, then teleporting back to the next Nightmare Dungeon. Next, we're going to be looking at Astaroth. This is going to be the new boss. This is going to be permanent as well. They showed a little clip here of some of the cool gameplay from the boss fight. You actually get to do the Astaroth fight again. You get to knock him off the mount. It's actually very, very cool that they're going to be bringing this back as basically a mini boss inside of the dungeons. Not going to be inside of the boss ladder. I did make a little note because it's a multi-layer boss. Now, that is actually some of the feedback that I had just talked about that I would have loved to see, was instead of having immune phases, we now go through different phases of the fight. You kill one boss, and then you get to fight the second boss here, or a reincarnation of that boss, or something like that. It doesn't feel like your HP stops, or you do enough damage to do all of the HP and it comes back up again. This is going to feel a lot more smooth, a lot more cohesive, and it's going to make the battle a lot more fun. Horadric spells, these were going to be huge. There's a lot of depth, there's a lot of variety, there's a lot of customization to this. It's going to be 30 different components that you can combine together. You can create your own spells. It's going to be based on how you want things to run. You're going to have your catalysts. These are going to be your main abilities. These are going to be able to be slotted into whatever skill you want to use. When you go in and you actually look at the UI, it's going to have the slots for your skills that are going to line up directly with yours. So if I'm running a Barbarian and I'm running Hammer of the Ancients and I want to put my spell on Hammer of the Ancients, I put it right into that slot. And then it gives me the ability to use that spell whenever it's not on cooldown to hammer and then get the spell as well. It's really, really cool. Some of the visuals that they have are really, really punchy. They're really amazing. The attunements are going to be your visual effects. Then you're also going to have your infusions. Your infusions are actually going to change the way that you play a lot of the classes. It's going to change the damage type. And now you're going to have a chance to do a damage type that is going to be outside of what maybe your class would have ever done. It's going to bring it up to whatever other elemental type you have. It's going to be a very fun customization to the way that these skills are going to work. They're going to be doing things like the example that they use. This is a fire-based skill. When it touches something that will cancel it out, let's say like a wall or the chilling winds, it's going to erase that effect. So now you no longer have to deal with it. Depending on the dungeon that you go into, you can specifically equip something that's going to make sure that this works for you. You can specifically equip something that's going to counteract the monster type that's going to be inside of the dungeon. Lastly, they're going to have Arcana. These are going to be additional smaller effects that you're going to use to buff the skills that you already have chosen. You have a rare, a common, and a legendary. You can get some really great things, like this one here will grant you Unstoppable. That's amazing. A lot of the classes out there, some of them will have a lot more trouble getting Unstoppable than other classes. This is going to destroy barriers and knock enemies down for 5 whole seconds. That's a long time in Diablo 4 with how fast-paced the game is. If you were a fan of the occult gems in Season 7, they're bringing back something incredibly similar to that. They're going to have Herric Jewels. These are going to be slotted into your jewelry. You're going to have several different ones that you're going to be able to use. There's 15 in total. They're going to be coming from something that they hinted at as a Jeweler Guardian. Apparently, they are very hard. They kept on hinting at it that it's going to be a challenge. I don't know what that means. We're going to get to test it on the public test realm, but make sure that you get on and test it. They want to know exactly how this is going to fit into the build with the powers as well. Something that they did stress, which is a great relief, they're not going to cost as many gem fragments as it was on Season 7. They're going to reduce it so that we do make sure that we get a lot more of these and they're a lot more accessible to everybody else. Now we talked about some class balances. This one definitely is going to be a whole game shakeup. This is affecting all classes. The way Overpower works is that currently it scales off of your maximum life and your fortify. It was originally designed for those tankier builds that would be right up in your face. They needed a lot more life, and it was a way for them to get these big bursts of damage. We used to not be able to overpower quite as often. So now, with everybody being able to overpower so often and all of the new mechanics in the game, this became the huge majority of damage sources that everybody was striving to get to because of the big giant multipliers that you got. This is taking an 80% nerf. It's going to be a huge one, so we're going to have to find new ways of doing damage. Now again, this is not final. This is going to be something that we're going to have to test out on the public test realm and see how it feels. And if it doesn't feel good, we'll hopefully see some changes. If it feels great and some of the new builds are coming up and shining, then maybe it was a really great change that gives all of the other builds a chance to shine. Basic skills are getting buffed, and I'm super excited. Bash Barbs, you know where you are out there. Let's go, because this is going to be super fun. But not only that, we're going to actually see some other classes, something like the Spiritborn, who most of their abilities will actually get converted into a basic skill, now get some additional damage. They're 2 to 3xing the amount of damage that you're going to be doing. So instead of doing, let's say, 20% of your weapon damage, they're going to be doing 60% of your weapon damage. It's going to be a really good balance. They're trying to find a way to give all of us a way to have different builds, more variety, and we'll see exactly how it's going. Now we're going to be, this is a kind of a give and take a little bit here. They're going to be raising the cap of your maximum resistances. That's going to make us more tanky. They're also going to be taking away some of the massive sources of resistances to all from all of the uniques that we were getting. You get yourself a pair of Ariad's Bearings with a greater affix, you are set on your resistances basically all the way through. You don't have to worry about it now. They're going to be taking some of that away, so we're going to have to find new and unique ways of getting to that 75% cap, but when we get there, we're going to be stronger. Key passives. Somebody before the live stream started was talking about the new combustion thing that has been found for Sorcs, where it's just scaling up so high. They were hoping that it doesn't get nerfed. All of the key passives are now going to cap out at a 75x. No matter what it is, no matter how it scales, we're only going to be seeing 75x increase to damage, but they're going to make sure that all of the underperforming ones are also being brought up to that same exact level. They're going to try and make all of the builds and all of the key passives fit into something. Let's look at the different classes now. We're going to start with the Barbarians. Now, we were talking about the basic skills bash coming back. It's actually going to get an even bigger buff than that basic skill damage increase. But before we get into that, Earthquakes are getting nerfed. The legendary node that's giving you a 200% increase, it's going to come down even further. So we're going to see the Earthquakes come down just a little bit more than they already are at right now. Earthquakes are still the top build right now for the Barbarians. So we're still going to see a little bit of meta shakeup. We'll have to see exactly what comes out of it. The legendary Paragon nodes have been simplified, and that actually has been simplified across all the classes. What that means that instead of having to do this, this, and this, and that, in order to make sure that you get your damage bonuses, they're going to make it much simpler. You're just going to get a damage bonus, and that'll be the way that it works. The new unique, all of the classes are going to be getting one new unique. The new one is going to be Boots for the Barbarian, which is a great spot to be putting this on, and it's going to give you increased to basic skill damage. It is going to be a huge multiplier, but not only that, it's also going to make any of your basic skills cleave. Let's say you want to play a Frenzy Barb. It's now going to make Frenzy cleave monsters and do an AoE instead of just doing single target damage, which is going to make Frenzy a lot more viable. This is going to be a crazy increase to some of those basic skill builds that we absolutely love. Bash is probably going to come back, but maybe something like Flay. Who knows? We'll see what ends up happening with the new changes to the key passives. Maybe the bleed key passive will actually be viable and we can do some bleed builds. Druids. They're going to be changing the way the Cataclysm is going to be working. They're going to be bringing that back down because that is currently the top build. Grizzly Rage is actually going to be getting some buffs, so we'll see where that kind of falls into the new meta. Their new unique is going to make a Poison Bear. It was actually pretty cool to see. It's going to spawn a puddle whenever you pulverize, and then when you pulverize inside of that puddle, it's going to splash a whole bunch of puddles all over the place, and that is going to do additional damage. The Necromancers, Soul Rift is going to be changing. Soul Rift is no longer going to have a barrier. They said that it just did everything and anything that you needed for that class. So they're going to be pulling that back a little bit in terms of the variety of buffs that it does. It's still going to be incredibly strong and very viable. Blood Wave is going to be changing. The damage output from the uniques going to be reduced, so that damage that you get from the pants is just so overwhelming that they're going to be pulling that back a little bit so that you can find other sources to increase that blood wave damage. The new unique that they're getting is actually really cool, and I'm pretty excited because I love playing a minion necromancer, and what it's going to do, you will now be able to sacrifice both your warriors and your golem, and for every other summon that you would have had that you have sacrificed, you can now get those in mages. Once you have attacked 25 times with those mages, they become gigantic, and now they can teleport away from monsters, and they do additional damage. With the rogues, we all knew the Death Trap was going to be nerfed a little bit. The unique pants were what was giving it so much strength. That's going to be taken back a little bit. They're having new legendary nodes that are going to get reworked. They actually took Eagle Horn, and they're going to be buffing it a little bit to make it just a little bit more viable. And they're giving you a new unique for Flurry. Now, this one is a give and take as well. You're going to do a ton of damage. If you run out of energy, you're going to start losing life, but you're going to be able to attack incredibly fast. You can actually go down to about 1 life if you continue to do this. So you have to watch your life. You have to kind of play with it a little bit, but you attack insanely fast when you get this up. It was actually very fun to see running around just like slamming into monsters with so many attacks so fast. For the Sorceress, we're going to see some changes to Lightning Spear. Now, as you know, that has been the top build for season after season after season. Splintering Energy was the cause of that. It just changed your Lightning Spear from 0 to hero with 1 click of an aspect imprint. So they're going to be increasing the baseline of Lightning Spear's damage while reducing the Splintering Energy aspect. They're going to be capping combustion, but they know that there are not a lot of burning builds out there. So in order to do that, all of the burning skills out there are going to take a 25% buff. Now, if that is not enough on the PTR, make sure you leave enough feedback. So hopefully that we can get this into a really good spot. Huge Hydras. This one, everybody was super excited about. There is a brand new unique coming. So how this is going to work is that it's going to make your Hydras a core skill, and it's going to summon a 3-headed Hydra. Now, what it does after that is for each head above 3 that it would have had, the Hydra is going to grow instead, and it's going to deal up to 100% increased damage. It is honestly going to be really big. It's going to be really fun. The Spiritborn is going to be getting some buffs, not only the basic skill buffs, but we're going to be seeing some increases to Deflection and to Razor Wing. We're going to get some additional damage. They're going to be making some changes to the Hunter resets. Not necessarily taking it away, but redoing how that kind of works. And then we're going to be getting new pants. These unique pants are going to make your thorns poison thorns. Whenever you deal damage, it's going to deal back poison damage over time, and that can be increased based on how you're attacking and how you're getting hit. The devs are very aware that the Spiritborn was a little bit behind all the other classes, so hopefully with some of these changes, we'll see that Spiritborn strength come back up to where everything is going to be. Let's make sure that when you hop on, that we test. There were a couple system changes that they were talking about a little bit. They were talking about the elites and bosses. We're going to be gaining reputation now anywhere. You don't have to kill specific monsters. You don't have to do specific tasks. For your seasonal quest line and increasing your reputation board, you only have to kill bosses and elites anywhere in the game. You can do any content that you want. This is a really, really great quality of life changes. We talked about the Nightmare Dungeon sigils. You can now teleport inside the dungeons. The new affixes, those are going to be all permanent. The negative Nightmare Dungeon affixes will not penalize specific elements or builds. It's just going to be something that's going to be, let's say, Wallers or something like that, where you don't have to worry about your class being hindered by the affixes that are going to be in the Nightmare Dungeon. Increasing the quality of items per torment tier from all sources. Now, a lot of people can read this 2 different ways. People are either going to be very excited or kind of bummed because they can't move up in the torment tiers. They did say that there will be an increase in the quality as you go higher, but it did say it won't be so intense that you feel like you have to move up in the torment tiers. There will be rewards for moving up, but it will not be a make or break situation where you absolutely have to get up there. They're trying to enhance the journey for all of the players. Let's say in this season you made it to Torment 1, and then you finally, this season, you get some drops. Now you actually made it into Torment 2, you're going to have a chance to get slightly better drops. That might increase your chances of actually making it into Torment 3. So who knows how this is going to feel, but we're going to get to test it on the public test realm. Legendary runes. Now, this was a point of contention for a lot of people this season because they just didn't drop very often. They're doing an overall increased drop to your legendary runes. The Tributes of Harmony will now increase the number of runes that are going to be dropped. All of the Undercity tributes are going to drop runes. They also mentioned that the Whisper caches for the resources, the material ones, were not giving enough, so they're going to be increasing the amount that's going to be dropping from those caches, which is going to be awesome. The jewelry cache that you can craft at the jeweler, they're going to be reducing pretty significantly the amount of gem fragments that you need to craft. It's going from something like 150,000 down to 40,000. It is absolutely going to be a great change because it's basically impossible, especially with how it's going to be working. They did say they're also going to be increasing the amount of gem fragments that are going to be dropping. More runes, more gem fragments. We're going to be able to get those materials a lot easier in this season. So that's going to be really, really great. The Infernal Hordes is also going to get a buff to the amount of gems that is dropping. As a quick side note, before we hop into the Q&A section, they did say that in Season 8, we should be seeing a reduction in costs for your masterworking in the final tiers. Don't know exactly what it is yet, but we're going to be able to see a reduced cost so we can actually masterwork and not hit those bottlenecks. That was not what they intended. We ended up having a lot of opposite and then not some of the other mats, so they want to make sure that they're reducing the cost. Now, the PTR is coming on May 27th through June 3rd. Get on there and test. Unfortunately, it is only for PC BattleNet users. If you are not in a PC BattleNet, then you will not be able to do it. But I'll be live streaming if you guys want to check it out, and I'd be happy to test some things for you, so make sure you stop by the live stream. What we're going to be doing for all of the Q&A, they touched on the reliquary system. Unfortunately, they probably will not be updating it for Season 9. They said they're looking at making some changes to it and some big ones, but it will not be in time to hit Season 9. So we're going to have probably the same reliquary system. We are going to have a reliquary event coming up. I don't know exactly what that is, but probably for the anniversary. The IP collab feedback was received. We're going to see some changes to the IP collabs. Now, for the Q&A here, can you find the Horadric strongholds inside the Escalating Nightmare dungeons? You absolutely can. Are the new dungeon changes coming to the Eternal Realm? Yes, they are. Mouse and keyboard is still coming, but all of the public test realm is going to be PC BattleNet only, so you will not be able to test out the mouse and keyboard on console. Soul Rift not generating barrier. How will they gain defenses? They talked about going into new options with the seasonal powers, finding other ways to generate barrier, or using some of the other aspects that are now being ignored because of how strong Soul Rift is. Someone asked about crafting. Are there going to be any updates coming to crafting? They're looking into tweaking the system. They are going to be updating the masterworking costs, as we talked about. The Scrolls of Wisdom. Are we going to make these a part of the game? They said that anything is possible. There might be coming into the future, but they like to look at all of the stuff, and they really love the way that they develop all these seasonal content, so they may be bringing stuff back in the future. Will there be a possibility that the Nightmare sigils can be shown for whispers? Now, that one would be an awesome quality of life change. When you see the Nightmare Dungeon sigil, it'll light up if it is a whisper. They said that they've heard the feedback on that it probably will not make it into Season 9, but it definitely is a possibility to make that change. Will there be more of a balance change for Season 8? They will be not updating any of the balance changes at all. Season 8 is locked in, so whatever your builds are, get out there, hit them hard, because unless something I think really, really breaks, nothing is changing. Will you consider to dim down the effects from other players? So there's going to be a lot of big flashy explosions and powers in the next season. Will we be able to dim those down? They want us to get out there and test. They're going to be doing things like the minions for the Necromancer, where they kind of go a little gray when you're around other players or other players' minions. They're going to be doing some things like that. What changes will be made to the reliquary? So again, they talked about making some changes, but it's not going to hit Season 9. They asked if we're going to be bringing out any new items, any new mythics. The only thing that's going to happen right now is that they're going to be having the one new unique, and then they reworked some of the legendary aspects as well. So we're going to see some of those. So that's it. It was a long one. There is a lot to unpack. We're going to go over the patch notes as well. So that'll be in a separate video, but the patch notes are pretty massive too. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm very excited to hop into Season 9 and get onto the PTR as well and test out some stuff, because this is a short season. We're going to be starting to set up groups for Season 9 probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to be doing groups every single start of the season. We set up a whole bunch of people. We pair them up with random groups. They all go out together. They get to learn all of the brand new content. If you want to be in the in-game clan, make sure you get into the Discord server. Click the link at the top of the description of this video. Head in there now, go to the Clan Q channel and apply. Then we'll be starting all of our events for Season 9 coming up pretty soon, so don't miss out. Get on in. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm live every night. I'd love it if you stopped by, said hi, theory crafted with me. Catch you on the clip side.